I will go ahead and call the meeting of the March 5th, 2026 TRPA Hearings Officer to order at 2 p.m. My name is Marcia Birch, and I'll be serving as the Hearings Officer today. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. We have 2 items for hearing today. Have there been any changes?
There have not been any changes to the agenda.
All right, thank you. I will approve the agenda as it was posted. Item 3. This will be public interest comments for no action. Any member of the public who wishes to address the hearings officer on any item that is not listed as a public hearing item on the agenda may do so at this time. Public comments on any public hearing item will be taken at the time those agenda items are heard. The hearings officer is prohibited by law from taking immediate action on or discussing issues raised by the public that are not listed on the agenda. All right, so Jessica, I don't know, are there folks in the room?
There are folks in the room.
Great,
So
let's ask for any public interest comments.
Okay, so anybody wishing to make a comment, please do so right now. Looks like nobody in the room is wishing to make a comment. I will ask online because we have several members of the public online as well. So anybody online wishing to make a comment, please raise your hand by clicking on the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by dialing *9 if you've joined by telephone. There are no hands raised to comment.
All right, then I will go ahead and close the public interest comment portion of the meeting and go on to announcement of appeal rights. Any decision of the hearings officer is appealable to the TRPA governing board. The notice of appeal, which can be found on TRPA's website, and associated fees must be filed within 21 days of the hearings officer's decision. All right, so that brings us to our public hearing items. The first one being item 5A, Linear Public Service, Tahoe Cedars Water System Reconstruction Project Phase 1, Tahoe, El Dorado County, and Placer County, California. Assessor's parcel number 014-304-006, TRPA file number ERSP 2025-1682. And I believe this is Julie's item.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Julie Roll, Senior Planner at TRPA. And as Marcia said, this is a linear public service project to reconstruct the water system serving the Tahoe Cedars neighborhood on the west shore of Lake Tahoe in the Tahoe area. So the existing water system was built back in the 40s. It's just having a lot of maintenance issues and essentially beyond its design life at this point. So the project is proposing a total reconstruction. A lot of the water mains are currently located on private property in people's backyards, so that makes maintenance very difficult. So this will fix that issue. So the project proposes to relocate water mains into the public right-of-way, generally modernize the system with updated technology, water meters, and increased flow to meet fire demand. And this is the first out of 4 phases. So there'll be future permits for future phases. So those will be reviewed separately. And this first phase includes approximately 300 new or relocated service connections and about 20,000 linear feet of new water main. So that's just the very short and simple project overview. I do have one change to the draft permit that I would like to propose. And I've shared this proposed revision with the applicant and also with the hearings officer ahead of the meeting, but I will go through it right now. In the draft permit attachment B, special condition 5 currently states that excavation shall not exceed 5 feet in depth. And that's somewhat of a standard condition we put in permits, and it was really an error because there are instances in this project where the excavation will exceed 5 feet in depth. So my proposal is to delete that condition and add the following in its place, and I'll read it. The average excavation depth of the project is 4.6 feet below ground surface. Excavation will exceed 5 feet when necessary to maintain clearance between the water main and other utilities, to maintain positive slope of the water line, and to connect the existing water lines that may be deeper than 5 feet. So with this change, I also needed to update the required findings in attachment A. Which is just addressing the excavation deeper than 5 feet and the potential for interception of groundwater. So that's code section 33.3.6.A.2.D, which is allows the excavation even when intercepting groundwater for public health and safety purposes. So TRPA is able to make those findings, given that this is a public health and safety project, and the whole purpose of the project is to ensure reliable water service and to enhance fire protection capabilities. So at the excavation below 5 feet is generally where there's the greatest chance of intercepting groundwater. That's not always the case. Sometimes it's much at a much less depth. But they're going to only excavate when necessary. So there's, really only to make those connections, like I stated. And there's really no feasible alternative to avoid those kind of excavations just due to design and connecting to what's existing. So
Julie, is this map the excavations, the next one I have?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't have anything specific to that. So you can go back to the other one. So that's all I have. I did want to also address or just point out that I did receive public comment ahead of the hearing, which has been posted to the TRPA website. It's been, made available to the hearings officer ahead of the meeting. The comment is quite lengthy, so I'm not going to read it. That would take a while, but I will summarize to say that the main concern that I've heard is related to the use of a 3-acre TCPUD water tank parcel that's kind of on the outskirts of the project area. So the concern is really just about the impacts to neighbors, noise, traffic, dust, all those things that happen during construction. But also the concern about a goshawk nest that has been identified on a neighboring Tahoe Conservancy parcel. So the tank site is within kind of the buffer area of the no disturbance for that sensitive species. So just before we move on, I just wanted to provide a little bit of context just from TRK perspective about staging yards, what we look for when we approve them, what's the process for approving staging yards. And I'll just point out that I've been reviewing this project during the winter season, so it's not feasible always to get out and go inspect all the sites during the permitting process. So we, as a backup, usually have staging yards reviewed by our compliance inspector, who's going to be the inspector for the length of the project and kind of be the infield point of contact for TRPA. So the typical system is that we will ask for a staging plan, but our inspector will, look at them, talk to the contractor at our pre-grading inspection and go over the required BMPs and all that. The applicant did provide, a site plan showing potential staging yards within the project area and also did provide a detail, like a typical detail of the BMP plan for a staging yard. So it's, they're acknowledging needing BMP such as, erosion control, the perimeter fencing, tree protection, and all that. So that's typically required through attachment Q, which is our standard conditions of approval. That's all part of the permit, as well as like construction hours and noise, things that we always address with every single project. So we do have, a list of staging yards. They're part of the review, but they haven't been reviewed to the extent of like having a site visit to each and every one. So that can be done further down the line once the contractor kind of dials in exactly where they want to work. And as far as the goshawk nest, that's a little bit of a different concern. I did confirm with like some of our monitoring staff that yes, there was a nest identified last year that was active. It's in proximity to this tank site. We don't really know if there's going to be an active nest site next season. The draft permit does not currently have any conditions specific to the goshawk nest and any surveying or anything like that. So I think, Marcia, we do have some options on how we want to proceed forward that we can talk about, but I thought I wanted to leave it to you if we wanted to maybe hear from the applicant first do public comment first and come back to the issue, or if we want to go through some potential options of how, if, you know, if the permit needs to be modified to address that issue.
I do think that you're right. We may have to be looking at some different options here, but I do want to give the applicant an opportunity to address the hearings officer, and then we'll go ahead and get some public comment, and then we can talk about next steps.
Great, thank you. So do we want to turn over to the applicants, I guess, first?
Yes, please. Let's do that.
Very good. My name is Julie Ryan. I am the project manager for Tahoe City Public Utility District for the Tahoe Cedars project. Thank you for hearing us today. Julie will summarize this all very well. As she indicated, with the staging map that we have that's posted on the screen right now, that, you know, this was the version that was submitted with the TRPA permit set. As we're getting closer to construction, we're continuing to contemplate different staging areas. You know, our purpose with staging is to be as efficient and non-disruptive, have the least impact to the neighborhood as possible. So we've identified over 20 potential staging areas, and we'll continue to look more closely at those as we prepare to do the work in coordination with TRPA. As to the goshawk nest, you know, I'm appreciative that that this nest has come to our attention in time for us to react. And I believe our initial environmental checklist does acknowledge a need to do a survey in advance of the start of construction.
Yep.
So to those 2 points, that's pretty much all I've got to add.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and ask some questions before of staff and probably the applicant as well before we go into public comment. Are there other approvals? Will there be county approvals with this project?
Our team has been working with the county on encroachment permit for this project.
Okay, but they will not be issuing a permit for the work.
They'll be issuing an encroachment permit for the work.
Okay.
It will be.
Okay.
Yes. And as well as we have been working with the California Tahoe Conservancy on the tank line alignments. The plan set that we provided had 2 alternative alignments for the last segment of pipeline that goes from the right-of-way up to the tank site. And California Tahoe Conservancy has interest in both of those routes. And so the selected route has yet to be determined by them. The issue will be going before their board in June.
Okay. And the difference between the 2 alignments, and maybe Julie can answer this question. Did we evaluate the potential impacts for either of those alternatives?
No.
Okay.
Not specifically.
Okay, so there was an assumption that one of the alternatives would be the project.
Yeah, yes.
We basically applied for both.
Yeah.
And then we'll only build one.
Right. So, I mean, they were, I guess, in a sense, both looked at, but not like differentiated and, you know, pulling out the impacts of one versus the other. No.
Okay, and I noticed that in the first special condition in the permit, it talks about the total disturbed area being approximately 160,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
And that most of that would be within paved roads or shoulders. So I'm just thinking about those calculations, you know, if there's an alternative that may exceed that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And I don't know the answer to that, whether that would.
I do. So I'm Greg Lyman. I'm the engineer on the project. So the disturbance for both of those was included in the total. So our intention would be that we would do less, or,
Yeah.
the total will be less than we're asking to be permitted for. And I should
Uh-huh.
also point out that both alignments end at the same location, end at the
Mhm.
same tank. So they're very close to each other. Both of them have approximately the same amount of in pavement versus off of pavement.
Mhm.
The tanks are off of the roadway.
Mhm.
And so the last segment, if you will be that piece that's out of the roadway. I mean, one is on a access road that's already an unpaved dirt access road. The other one's more, cross country.
Mhm.
And so we're favoring the one with the dirt access road, pending approval, but it wouldn't affect the totals. If you pick one versus the other, the ratio of in pavement, out of pavement is approximately the same.
All right, thank you. And so I noticed this was in the staff report, and Julie, you also mentioned that this project will be occurring in phases, and this is phase one. And do we
Correct.
know approximately how long phase one will last?
Our intention is to complete the work this season. We may end up having to roll it over into the beginning of the next grading season, depending on our progress.
Okay, and when
And
do you
there are-
anticipate the next phase?
We anticipate the next phase would start at the beginning of next construction season, so 2027 May.
Okay, so you anticipate they'll follow one another pretty closely?
Yes,
Okay.
that is our intent, to have the entire project completed within 4 construction seasons.
And there were some site plans in the plan set that address the phasing and different, like with the
Okay.
locations. So they're in there
Okay.
just as kind of a reference.
Okay, so I want to ask some questions about this staging area that is, the concern is being raised in the public comment we received that this particular area wasn't included in that. And I have to admit, I tried to figure out whether or not it was included in this set of plans, and I couldn't.
So I think the next photo over that I saw flash on the screen there might have a little close up. Yeah, so
That's,
the area in question is the light blue inside of the dark blue circle.
yeah, the dark blue circle. This one I just had ready just in case we wanted to look at it, but that's the buffer we have on our GIS of the goshawk nest, like no non-disturbance zone, basically.
Then if you go back,
Yep.
the previous photo is a page out of the plan set identifying potential
Yes.
staging areas, and you'll see kind of in the lower left
Mhm.
a red square that with stripes on it.
Mhm.
I see
That's the
that.
same
Yeah,
parcel there identified as
yes.
again, potential staging area. Oh, it's
Okay.
also listed in the table on the right. That's kind of small print, but it's
Yeah.
listed on the table on the right. So that was part of our permit set submitted to.
Yeah, and you can also see, I think the red dotted line is like the project area for phase one. Am I right on that? That's the
Correct.
outline. So
That's the
that's
outline.
that's the project area we're talking about in general.
And then is this
Okay.
the first staging area you were talking about down here?
Sorry, I didn't hear
Is
that.
this the first staging area you were talking about down here? This blue?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's the square
Yeah.
just above the cursor. There you go.
Yeah.
So I think one of my questions was whether or not it was listed in the plans, as a part of the project. But what I'm understanding from Julie's presentation is that we have not reviewed the potential environmental impacts of, say, the use of a particular staging area.
Yeah, I would say not on a specific parcel level for each one of them. That's correct. I mean, we've looked at it's not in this, but we've looked at their proposed BMPs and we've looked at their general kind of proposal for staging areas and how they'll use it. But no, I haven't evaluated each one of those to see if they have specific concerns or, potential
Right.
impacts that would be different from one another.
So what I'm curious about, and of course, it was a lengthy comment. I did review the entire comment. And there were certainly some issues that were raised specifically with respect to the potential for use of this site as a staging area. And it seemed like a long time to me. There was something in the comment regarding, a 4 or 5 year period. But it does sound like if a staging area continued to be used through the multiple phases, it could be a lengthy period of time. And I understand it will just be during the construction season. What I'm curious about, and maybe someone from the applicant team can address the various concerns such as vegetation removal, compacting of the soils there, noise, and the use of that particular staging area.
Yeah, so I don't want to put words in our contractor's mouth about exactly how they would intend to use the staging area, but my understanding is that it would be used for the active construction of the water line, particularly as we approach the tank. We're going to be moving up the roadway with water line towards the tank. And so they may start using that staging area, before we get to that final reach, but.
That's correct.
And it would be for, the materials that you're actually installing. There would be some soil staging, equipment,
Working equipment.
that kind of thing,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
For the construction that's occurring in the vicinity.
correct. Correct, exactly.
And can I just add on to that? I mean, that was kind of my impression with my discussion from the applicant is this is not necessarily the most convenient staging area. So it's not, it didn't sound to me that this was going to be their main day to day.
Yeah, and
I could add just a little to that, or
Go
you go
for it.
first?
well, I was going to say, as far as like day to day, I want to make sure that everyone is aware that we have been in discussions with the state parks for finding an area within the Sugar Pine State Park that is accessible to the project area, and that might be a little bit larger, easier approach, easier access from the highway, that kind of thing, for a longer duration, sort of consistent usage.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. I think in the effort to be efficient for costs and things like that, that we have various locations picked out to use as we're working in that vicinity. And then this picture that you're looking at shows our on-site kind of available areas, but we also have off-site available areas. So the location on the state park is a paved area where we could drop material, and take it into the project site in smaller loads and things like that. We have another one over by Homewood that's again off-site, that's highway accessible for those types of activities. But when you're a couple miles off the highway and in there to a place to leave the excavator, for example, you can't really transport that out and in every night, and the working tools, the pipe that you're using in that area. So that's our approach. That's why you might see, a dozen sites throughout the site, and then off-site we have our main yards where trucking's coming in and out and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to.
Yeah, and Marcia, they did that, these offsite, the state park and everything was addressed in the plan set. So this was, part of the application. And I didn't really mention, but kind of back to like our just general TRPA standards when it comes to staging areas, is that we're obviously, our preference is already paved areas that we can use. We don't have to disturb new areas. Typically, we would not allow someone to come in and, let's say, cut down trees or clear a bunch of vegetation to create a staging area. We're looking for previously disturbed areas where they could come in and use it and then restore it at the end. So we get a little bit of an environmental gain at the end of the project by, maybe there's some like dirt yards that we can get some restoration at the end of the project. So that's, usually how we operate.
One other thing with regard to the work that we're going to do in the vicinity of the water tank. Even if you're looking at this map, we haven't identified many other potential locations in the vicinity of that would be conducive to staging for that work. You know, so all we're really left with is kind of the roadside, you know, right-of-way options. And so, you know, that's going to make it very difficult to do the work if we're not able to stage on the site that we're actually performing the work.
Okay, so what you're saying is that it's important to include this staging area.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I have, and I apologize for circling back to this this groundwater condition, Julie, but
Sure.
I just had a question about, we've included the possibility that they will intercept groundwater. And I don't know if we have standard conditions that go in that include mitigation for if and when that occurs, or if there are, you know, guidelines for, you know, how to manage that groundwater.
Yes, and I can't remember offhand, but typically we would require a dewatering plan to be submitted, and I can't remember, to be honest, if they submitted it already or if it's a condition of the permit, but one way or the other, we're getting a dewatering plan that they would implement in that case. So really, when it's something like a water line or these kind of linear projects, you know, we're expecting that it may happen in some locations. It's unavoidable. So the mitigation is, how are we going to manage that water during construction to make sure we're not like making a big mess? There's, you know, they're able to do the work, having a dry enough site. So it's a little different than, for example, if they were trying to build a structure with a foundation that's intercepting groundwater, we would look at that very differently. But for this, it's just really management in the field and how that's going to happen. So
Okay, that was my recollection, that there was a management strategy, and I just wanted to, you know, check in and make sure that was going to be part of that additional
and that's very
conditions.
common, very standard. We deal with that a lot.
Okay, so what I would like to do is, unless the applicant has anything more to add, I'd like to go ahead and open this up for public comment.
Okay, I'll go to the room first. Anyone in the room wishing to make a public comment, please raise your hand and I'll call on you one by one. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name's Michael Levin. I think you might be referring to the comments that I submitted to you previously. I'm a full-time resident of Tahoe. It's my only home. I've been there for 13 years and been in the basin for 30. And I want to start by saying I fully support this project to replace the failing water system in Tahoe. What I'm here to speak about today is TCPUD's proposal to build a staging area in the 3-acre parcel next to the water tanks. And let me start by saying that that current photo that's up there, that red area shows the water tanks. It does not show the 1 to 2 acre proposed site that they want to build there. And Julie Ryan made the point, she said, this is very important to include this in one of their staging sites. Yet she specifically left it off the application to TRPA, which was very misleading. The following points are the ones that I think should be stressed. Number one, the proposed staging site, which would more appropriately be called an industrial storage yard, was not included in the CEQA application. And earlier you were talking about the square footage of 160,000 square feet. What they're proposing is an 86,000 square foot storage area on previously undisturbed dirt, and this would be on dirt, plus another approximately 15,000 square feet of rebuilding a road that's there to support their heavy equipment. And they have not put that anywhere in these plans. And I believe that wasn't included because TCPUD and Auerbach know that the site is environmentally sensitive. and likely would not have been approved by either this organization or CEQA. Number two, there's an active goshawk nest located 900 feet from the water tanks and likely less than 500 feet from where this proposed staging area is. It produced 3 successful fledglings last year, verified by the Tahoe Conservancy. Number 3, a staging site in this natural area rather than a paved lot magnifies the fire risk in this area. And number 4, a staging site in this area impacts the ability of residents to use and enjoy their homes. So I'll detail those a little bit in my couple of minutes that I have left. In regards to point 1, the lack of clarity in the application, Julie Ryan, the head engineer for this project, admits to the inconsistency between the written project description and the plan set submitted to TRPA, and I've included her email about that. The CEQA application did not include up to 100,000 square feet of land disturbance in a previously undisturbed natural area. It would require an upgrade of the road to accommodate heavy equipment, a point made by TCPUD themselves, and that I included in that longer discussion. It was never mentioned in the plans, and this is done within 50 feet of existing homes. In regards to point 2, an active goshawk breeding site within 900 feet of the water tanks and less than 500 feet from the proposed industrial yard. The application refers to, quote, a potential goshawk nesting site near the existing water tanks, which is incorrect and deliberately misleading. This is an existing actively used nest in that site. It's not a potential nest, it's an active nest with 3 fledglings produced last year. U.S. Forest Service and TRPA guidelines are clear in this. No new activity within a half a mile of a goshawk nest and a 6,000 acre protected zone around that nest. TRPA has stated a goal of 12 active breeding sites in the basin. They fluctuated between 2 and 11 in a cyclical pattern, never achieving that 12. They average 5. Nests are reused for decades, and if not used consecutively, may be used by other protected raptors in those years they're not used. So doing this evaluation in early May, as proposed by Auerbach and Granite, who I listed and gave you an attachment of their long list of environmental disregards and their fines, which now total about $3 million between them for these environmental problems that they've caused. In regards to point 3, fire and other risks, industrial corporation yards are at risk of equipment leakage of gas, oil, and other hazardous material. There's a risk of fire from the heavy equipment due to fuel, engine, and exhaust fire, metal on metal sparks. And this area is an extreme fire zone immediately adjacent to our homes. It's not meant to be an industrial storage yard. And lastly, in regards to number 4, respect to the community, the application ignores the impact of building a new road, destroying historic recreation trails there, including the 1960 Olympic cross-country trail, and which is in the Ascent Environmental report. They didn't know what they were looking for, so they said it doesn't go through there, yet on their map shows it directly through there. There'd be continuous noise, vibration, dust, exhaust from heavy equipment daily for 6 months for 5 years. And that's another correction I'd like to make, that you earlier thought this was stage 1, and this is not their plan. Their plan is to use this as the main staging area for the entire project. They stated that they have nowhere to park the excavator. There are compacted areas at the end of each street, including Chinkopin and Antelope, that they could use to park their excavator overnight. Julie Ryan stated that she wants to have the least impact as possible on the community. She stated that today, and yet she wants to go ahead with this that would basically destroy our ability to enjoy our homes for the next 5 years. And in fact, TCPUD, their spokesperson told me that someone is going to have to suffer for this project to be completed. That's TCPUD's regard for the community. Someone is going to have to suffer. Well, I don't think we should have to suffer to get this done. They ignore the health impacts on the elderly residents, including sleep disruption, air quality, noise, loss of recreation ability, and loss of enjoyment of our homes. To summarize, we're in support of replacing the water system, but only if the use of the water tank area as a staging site is eliminated completely because of the threats to the environment, our health, recreation, fire risk, and most importantly, the endangered goshawk population.
Thank you, Mr. Levin.
Is there anybody else in the room? Okay, there's nobody else in the room. I'm gonna go online. If anybody online would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand now by clicking on the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by dialing *9 if you've joined by telephone. Okay, we have 2 hands raised to comment. First one, Tim, please unmute yourself to make your comment. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next person, Tim, and then I'll come back to you. The next person is Michael Ray. Michael Ray, please unmute yourself to make your comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, my name is Michael Ray. My family and I live at 7169 Antelope Way in Tahoma. And we wish to join our neighbors in expressing strident opposition to the issue that's been the primary issue discussed today, which is the potential to convert this 3-acre parcel of land around the water tanks to a staging area. I think our neighbor, Michael Levin, expressed the details of our opposition succinctly and fulsomely. We also support the project, but only with the removal of this potential staging area from the project plan set. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I'm gonna go back to Tim. Tim, please unmute yourself to make your comment. Tim, we can't hear you. Okay, I'm going to, again, come back to Tim and go to the next hand raise. A third hand popped up. The third hand here is Richard Landgraf. Please unmute yourself to make your comment.
Okay, let's see. Can you guys hear me okay?
we
Yes.
can.
Yeah, I'm also a neighbor and concur with the previous presenters' comments. Having been an environmental engineer, certified geologist, and geophysicist, working for Lawrence Livermore and having presented materials like this for our projects, I find this format lacking. And you can probably sense some frustration. What I sense is an underlying tone of trivializing the input and community findings. Um, with the list of notes that I've had, most of them have been covered. I think what's standing out for me in regards to this is Juliet Ryan's comments of today. And just to reiterate, looking for an efficient, least disruptive, lowest impact. And to be sitting here as a public member and a nearby neighbor here, for the public to have to point this stuff out and being presented to the public at this stage shows me that things have not been thought out. And to some respect, professionally, it's irresponsible. When you have to be, when your main site requires about 1/8 of a mile of gravel and repaving, and then you have to create a zone in the middle of a fire-prone forest of 3 acres for an industrial courtyard for 5 years, this is not short term. The only thing that's short term is the thinking around it. You have abundant sites along Highway 89, which is essentially a commercial infrastructure. And that's what this project is. And the fact that we're having to hear and to remind the group here of issues that were not raised, of a higher fire zone in a forest habitat, and have to point out these basic findings, and then to hear that the impacts were not evaluated and assumptions were made, but not to differentiate the different sites. What are we paying you for? Why are we here? This report and the proposals are half-baked. Not even addressed either is the requirement for 5 years, wherever site you're going to have security. You're going to have to put up lights, fences, alarms, or hire a security guard. I mean, we all know the area, and it's just that kind of stuff attracts people. So you can attract them to our neighborhood and then put up fence lights and leave them on all night. What's that going to do for the area after compacting the soil and adding imported gravel just to be able to haul stuff back and forth? I'd ask you guys to take a pause and go back and do your homework. I'll heed to the next comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landgraf.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to Tim. Tim, it looks like you are
Okay.
on your phone. Try dialing *9 to get yourself unmuted. I'm gonna let Tim work on that, and I'm gonna go to the next hand that came up. Pam Wishburne, please unmute yourself to make your comment. Pam, are you there? I can see you just unmuted yourself. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next hand up, and I'll come back to you, Pam. The next hand raised is Lee Kincannon. Please unmute yourself to make your comment.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my concern is,
Hi, Lee, we can hear you.
I've voiced this multiple times, the way the project is broken up versus and the responsibility put on the
Is
homeowner.
that Pam? Did you get unmuted, Pam?
I'm sorry,
Okay, Pam, if you're unmuted, please make your comment.
Yeah, Jessica, Mr. Kincannon was in the process of making his comment. I'm not sure why you couldn't hear him.
Oh, shoot. Okay, I'm sorry.
Were you able to hear him, Marcia?
Yes, I could hear him.
Okay.
Lee, just hold on for a moment and we'll see if we can,
I apologize,
maybe-
Mr. Kincannon.
it's okay. Maybe, Mr. Kincannon, maybe just try again with your comment and we'll see if they can hear you in the room.
okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, my concern is the way this project is being presented to the homeowners, and that is that we're responsible for installing the laterals into our own home. And the way the project was originally proposed on the February 21st board meeting is that it would be a full replacement of the existing water distribution system. And then in November, there was another proposal. And then on the February 2024, there was an adoption resolution 2520, and it was that it transferred all that responsibility to the homeowner. To me, that's a bait and switch, and we've been paying for this upgrades, I think, since January of 2023, if I'm not correct. And this puts a big burden on the homeowner. I know that there have been proposals, 3 different options for financing that have not been, as far as I know, been approved. And the burden could be anywhere from a couple $100 to $10,000 or $15,000 on the homeowner to install a new water line connecting to the proposed TRPA, TCPUD water lines. My property, it's going to be extremely difficult due to rocks and to trees. And I don't think any of this has really been taken into consideration and the burden be put on the homeowners. So I wish this would be reconsidered. In other areas, the TCPUD took on the responsibility to not only approve, but to install a new water line and pay for the laterals connecting to the homeowners. So, there just seems to be there's inconsistency in their approach to upgrading water lines in the various TCPUD districts. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Mr. Kincannon.
Hey, Marcia, I'm going to go back to Tim. It looks like he got himself unmuted. Tim,
Okay.
go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I'm a technological boob when it comes to Zoom meetings. So, following Lee's comments about the water laterals, I believe, well, I've sent you a comment which may not have gotten there in time to be posted, and I believe another neighbor sent you a comment which may not have been posted. But one of the issues we have here is mainly with the fact that the TCPUD was able to get a CE on their something exemption, for their project. But when I look at the rules and even on the TRPA site, I mean the TRPA site, a categorical exemption, they talk about different classes and different things. And to quote this here, it says, class 1, a class consists of operation, repair, maintenance, permitting, leasing, licensing. And it says, items will not, it says involving negligible or no expansion of use beyond the existing at the time of the lead agency's determinacy. Well, part of the TCPUD's argument is that they need to upgrade, upsize, and add more fire hydrants than currently existing. So to me, that is not just a replace as is, it's a significant expansion of the project. And therefore, seems to me that it should not be allowed for a categorical exemption. Another issue is one of the things they've done, and when they've initially filed for their categorical exemption, they had not approved the plan, which they did, the 2025 proposal, where all of a sudden every homeowner would be liable for the installation of the lateral from the POD, which is the point of distribution, to the home. And they were granted that categorical exemption, even though the project still included that they, or appeared to have included, that they were going to be the ones responsible for all the laterals. So it's 650 laterals, and I can tell you that some of them are going to be in the hundreds of, 100 and some feet of digging and excavating and everything else. In the TRPA's paperwork, it says Code of Ordinances, eligible exemption activities, and you have excavation, filling, and backfilling. And one of your statements is volume does not exceed 10 cubic yards on non-sensitive land during the grading season. Well, and then it says activity is completed within 48 hours, and also not a series of excavations that would collectively constitute a project. So one of the things the TRPA has done has been, at least from our view, has been able to say, oh, we're not responsible for that. So therefore, we don't have to deal with that, all that excavation of dirt, all the potential environmental impacts that are going to happen. And that seems, as it was previously noted by Michael, things weren't stated when they should have been stated. And whether this is a nefarious action or not, I can't really say, but it certainly seems that these are public agencies and professional organizations that are doing EIR reports and EIR declarations, and they should have known, or they should know, about these things. But they're sitting there going, oh, well, it's not our problem. And to cap it all off, at least from what I've been able to find out, is when they bought the Lake Forest or acquired the Lake Forest Water District, they did basically the same project. They had to redo the well, they had to redo all the piping, and let me backstep here. When I first started joining this process, I was told categorically that the TRPA the TCPUD could not do the laterals because they could not come on our property. They could not do all this and that and the other thing. Well, I found out later on that in the Lake Forest project, they did exactly that. They dug up, filed all the paperwork, did all the permitting process, whatever was involved, and they installed 32 laterals out of 38 homes that had to be done, something like that, if my memory serves correctly. And what I also found out was attending one of the meetings, and this was told to me by the TCPUD board president, I believe, was that, and she quote unquote, oh yeah, and I benefited from that because I lived there. But all along they were telling us that they couldn't do this, that they could not come on our land because it would be too hard, it would be too this, too that, whatever. My last point is that as they stated in their plans, they are going to abandon all the piping that is currently in the ground. That piping is on our properties. It may wander between properties, but it's on our properties. So they're going to leave what could be an environmental mess of rotting pipes and certainly whatever it is for us to deal with in the future. And as far as I understand, the pipes are their pipes. They're not my pipe. I don't have the right to go out and alter that pipe or dig up that pipe, currently. So, but they're going to just abandon it and leave it there. Somehow that doesn't seem quite fair to the neighborhood, and it doesn't seem like an aspect of a project that should be allowed with no categorical, allowed by a categorical exemption or any exemptions for that matter. Hopefully you heard all my items, and I will give up my time unless someone has a question for me.
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marcia,
Thank you.
there are no more space to comment.
No more comments. I'm gonna get in.
Okay.
Oh, wait, Pam Wishburne just,
I have Pam Washburn on the phone, if that.
her hand just popped up, so let me try to unmute her. Pam? Can you hear
Yes, are you able to hear me now?
There you go. Yes, we can hear you.
All right. I'm the homeowner, basically in the last home at the end of Chinquapin Placer intersection, where the gate is now that would lead to the staging area that has been under discussion. First of all, I'd like to say that I second everything that Mike Levin had to say about this project. That area where the staging area by the water towers is drawn, the access to that area is gated. The gate was changed to a locked gate probably 10 or more years ago. We had problems with these paths here are only for pedestrians or non-motorized vehicles. We've historically had a problem with dirt bikes and other, motorized vehicles, snowmobiles, etc., using the paths year round. The lock gate was put up some 10 years ago, to mitigate this. I cannot imagine if this access is now used to get to a staging area that's open for 6 months of the year up to 6 months of or 5 years, that it would not encourage that type of traffic again. We have erosion issues in the area and problems with water runoff. When I spoke to Julie Ryan and Aaron Hussman about this project months ago and asked them if this was selected as a staging area, what was their plan to restore this to its natural state, there was nothing planned to do that if this is used as a temporary staging area. traffic, noise, change to that environmental area, that protected area. It's just totally unbelievable that it's being considered when there are many other industrial sites already available, and there are paved areas, as have been suggested. For example, at the end of Chinkapin, there's many places to park equipment that are already paved. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wishburn. It looks like we lost our connection to TRPA just at the very end of your comments there, but I'm still here and I heard all of them. But I'm just going to give them a moment to reconnect.
And it looks like Michael Ray is trying to speak as well.
I think he may have commented. Oh, there we go. Mr. Ray, did you have an opportunity to comment?
I don't think Anne Ray had an opportunity.
Okay.
We were in the middle of, oh, we lost all of our attendees, so maybe they're getting back.
Did TRPA also have a chance to hear Pam's comments?
Yes, I heard them, and I am the hearings officer, so I was able to hear the remainder of her comments.
Okay, would you like me to have her finish her comments for the entire room here? Or do you want me to move on to the next one?
Ms. Wishburn, would you like to summarize your comments for those in the room who didn't get to hear the last part of it?
Sure. And I don't know at what point you lost your connection. So I'm the homeowner most proximate to this proposed staging area by the water towers. We used to have a gate across that that site. I think before the 3 acres was deeded to the water company and the water district. We used to just have a chain gate, and occasionally water trucks would go up. At the time, we had constant problems with motorized vehicles in unauthorized use of the trail. We had motorcycles, we had snowmobiles. We spent a lot of our time trying to chase motorbikes away. I can't imagine. Currently, the gate is locked. There's now a padlock on it. It's been locked for probably at least 10 years. I cannot imagine if this is a staging area and the frequency with which work vehicles would need to go in and out of the staging area, that they would be locking and unlocking the gate each time. I think this is going to re-encourage unauthorized motor vehicle access on here. Additionally, when I spoke to Julie Ryan and Aaron Hussman about the project, there are no plans to return the potential staging area to its natural habitat. It's a natural area. There seems to be an abundance of paved areas very close by, and I'm very dismayed that this would even be considered. And I second everything that Michael Levin had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like they're having trouble again. Sorry, everyone. We'll give them a few minutes and see if they can reconnect.
I guess everybody's trying to reconnect, Marcia.
Yeah. And they were able to for just a moment. Oh, there they are again. We'll
Okay,
see.
good luck.
Huh.
It does, yeah. Not all of us.
Okay. So we're back again.
Again.
So I will go ahead and briefly summarize. I did hear Ms. Wishburn's comments. She's been a resident there for a long time. Her residence is very close to this proposed staging area. There is a locked gate because there was a lot of unauthorized, it sounds like recreational use by motorized vehicles and things. So there's a gate that would potentially be unlocked if this was used as a staging area. So there are some concerns about that. Okay, so do we have any other comments?
1 second here, trying to get myself back to. I lost my mouse. Okay. There is one more. Oh, hang on 1 second. Okay, so it looks like Anne Ray has her hand raised. Anne, if you can hear us, please unmute yourself to make your comment.
Thanks. Hi. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I really appreciate the time you guys are allowing for community comments. I also want to comment regarding this 3-acre parcel as one of the neighbors on Antelope who's very close to this site. And I'm not going to rehash everything that's already been stated by my neighbors. I agree with all the points that they've raised. It's very valid. I just wanted to make an additional comment regarding the TCPUD representative's statement earlier that it would be inconvenient if the site weren't considered. I think for everybody's sake, TCPUD, all the customers who are affected, all the residents whose water lines and livelihoods are going to be affected by the street construction. Everyone wants it to be an efficient project, but I think convenience can't outweigh the importance of maintaining these natural areas. I do think an undisturbed natural area that's both a habitat and a forested area with high fire danger seem like they should make this just not even a potential site. So it's not just a matter of convenience, but it's a matter of safety and a matter of long-term environmental protection. Because when this project's over, if that site has been disturbed in the way that would be required, I think it's safe to say it could not be restored back to the way it is now. So I really do appreciate the thoughtfulness behind the consideration, and just taking all of these important factors into consideration before this project begins. So thank you very much for providing this forum for us.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. I did hear all of your comments, and again, I am the hearings officer, but we did get disconnected from TRPA again. Those folks that were in the office. So we'll wait for a few moments and see if they can.
I think we heard.
We
Oh,
heard
you
that.
did?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
we
you
did.
are. Oh, I just got a little note from Zoom that said I was the host now, so I thought you guys disappeared.
It's been
Okay,
dropping off and then we come back up and,
But we did hear that one.
yeah.
okay, you did. Okay, so are there any other comments online?
Let me get the participants open. There are no other hands raised to comment.
All right, then I'm going to close the public comment period. And I have a couple of questions. So Mr. Levin gave a pretty detailed description of what he says is an 86,000 square foot area that would be used for storage and all of that. I just would like to hear from the applicant, what is your response to that? How would, if this staging area that is of concern is used, how would it be used? And, would it be storage? Would there be security fencing? Would there be lighting? Would there, what kind of use would be made of this?
Someone would like to
Yeah,
have you
okay. So there is a gate there. We would utilize the existing gate, for one. We don't want to have people coming and going, when we have any equipment or materials stored up there. We would utilize the existing gate that's currently there and lock it, not leave it wide open for people to vandalize or steal anything from us. That's a big concern, even in the basin. It does happen. So primarily, and a lot of it has to do with the pipe going up to the tank. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joey. So there's an option right now of the pipe utilizing the pipe or the access road as opposed to coming up off of the lower location. So based on that, if we're physically working, putting pipe in the ground up there, we're going to have equipment up there. The road is going to have to be reconstructed or stabilized. As far as the base rock and grading and calling this an industrial site, I think that is extremely exaggerated. It's more of a storage place to park equipment, put pipe materials, because we have no locations. It's a residential neighborhood. And the whole reason this came up was this is a parcel that is owned by Tahoe City. This is their project, Tahoe City PUD. So it makes most sense to try and utilize a piece of property that's owned by the agency that's conducting the work to have as a staging yard. I mean, that's what we do. We do this all the time. We can't set have a yard on the side of Highway 89 and Caltrans right away. That's just, it's not reasonable. Caltrans won't let us do it unless it's their own project. We've looked at other sites, Homewood being one. They have their own project, as most people know, that they're trying to permit. He can't give me any direction whether we can use it or not because they have their own project to build. And again, we're looking at Sugar Pine State Park. It literally has to go through the state capitol, or as we call the White House, to get approval. We do not technically have approval yet. So we're looking at other options, but basically we're looking at where we're working in a given part of the neighborhood, utilizing existing dead end streets, property owned by Tahoe City PUD, right away, and to try and minimize impacts to parking right on the road and staging equipment right on the road. Nobody likes that either.
Can I ask you a specific question about what you envision for usage of the tank parcel area? For the work that we're conducting. Are you picturing any vegetation removal in order to create lay down areas, and if so, like how much space?
So early on, there was some trees that were identified to be removed along that road. I think that was for the pipe alignment.
Yeah.
I don't believe we're not doing that anymore, correct?
No, but up on the tank parcel, if you needed a lay down area based on, because we have walked up there together before, there's
a flat area. It's pretty clear. There's very little vegetation. It looks like it's been cleared prior.
vegetation, very little vegetation.
Marcia, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
It was cut off. It was cut off just as he was saying that there's very little vegetation.
Okay.
Yes.
That one.
We would protect any trees up there that are there. I don't see us grading, we might have to improve the road a little bit to get in there, but it's gonna be torn up in order to put the new pipeline up to the tank. So it is going to be disturbed. But I envision storing pipe materials, parking equipment, and if we need to screen some material, some rocky material potentially, but keep that to a minimum.
But fence and lighting, that was brought up.
What's that?
Would you put up fence?
Marcia, can you hear us?
Yes, I can now. So there was just a question about fencing and lighting.
Yes.
And I would like to hear the answer to that one.
Yeah, hold on, Marcia.
Okay.
Is there still an echo? Test, test, test. All right, test, test, test.
That
Okay,
sounds
Marcia,
better.
can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Try speaking, Marcia?
Yes, I can hear you.
So I think they're looking for your response on fencing and lighting.
Yes, so since this is not a night job, we do use lights at night, but we're not permitted to work at night, so there will be no lighting.
Okay. Okay, so in the interest of efficiency, I'm going to go ahead. I know Julie raised the possibility that we might have some additional items that need to be included in this permit, and I agree. I think that I understand this staging area that's of such concern to the neighborhood is just one of several possibilities, but it sounds to me like it's a distinct possibility that this would be used as a staging area. And as the project is proposed, if it was approved today, use of this area would be part of that approval. I understand the past practice regarding deferring review of staging sites until the project is further along and having our code compliance inspectors take care of that. But where we are aware, as we are here, that this is a sensitive site. It's very close to residences. It has a known goshawk nesting site. And I think there are some concerns potentially about noise, et cetera. We know that it's a sensitive site, and I think that pre-project approval should be done in that situation. So what I would like to do is continue this so that staff and the applicant have an opportunity to more closely evaluate the potential impacts of the use of this staging area. I would also like a review of any staging areas that are potentially sensitive. I understand there are some much more public sites that are already paved. Those are what I think of as the typical staging site candidates. And this one seems like it deviates from that sort of typical staging area sort of profile. I also would like at least some explanation in the environmental review of the two different alternative routes. It sounds like they're very similar, although it was something that I think it's important to at least acknowledge in that environmental review that there are two alternatives and that they would have similar impacts. And then a review of all of the findings in light of that additional analysis of the staging areas and the alternatives. And that's what I am going to do. I'm going to take action and continue this. Julie and the applicant, do you have input regarding how much time you think you would need to do this additional review?
Well, I'm just thinking logistically in terms of when we would need to post any revised staff report. That would be 1 week from today, correct?
Yeah. Well,
if you were to bring it at the March 19th.
For 2 weeks, yeah, and for 2 weeks, we would need that done.
There is another hearings officer meeting scheduled for April 2nd, which would require posting materials. Whatever the Thursday is between the 19th and
March 26th.
yeah. And then there are future hearings officer meetings in April as well.
The second one in April on April.
Yeah, that's fine.
and I agree with Marcia. I would take the time to go through it and not necessarily rush it, but really a lot of what we heard today, I think, is some stuff that hasn't been fully developed. And there are more questions. I mean, even as we're hearing in the comments of just not public comments, but from the contractor of just you guys were kind of talking about. You're talking in this meeting about potential impacts. I think that stuff all needs to be fully worked out and put into the environmental review. So I think I'll speak for Marcia in that sense too. Like I think that's what Marcia was looking for next time. So I would really go through and.
Yes, thank you, Graham. That is what I would like to see, a fuller analysis with more than just a deferral of, a potential review of staging sites that may be chosen down the line. Okay.
Sounds good. So I'm not sure on the exact timing at this point because we may want to schedule like a field meeting, get our compliance team in to look at things ahead of time. So anyway, we'll I guess keep everyone in the loop once we figure that out.
All right. Thank you all, and thank you to everyone who participated.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so it looks like our connection may be holding on. So we can go on to the next agenda item. This is our final item, item 5B, City of South Lake Tahoe. Consideration of a special use permit for South Tahoe Association of Realtors, 2307 James Avenue, South Lake Tahoe, California. Assessor's parcel number 023-221-058. City of South Lake Tahoe, file number SUP 25-001.
Might be able to do
And I believe that Anna, I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce your last name, Kashuba?
Nope, that's right. Good job.
Oh, okay. Senior planner from the City of South Lake Tahoe is going to present this item.
Yes, thank you. And just for clarification, do I have access to the PowerPoint slides, or will you be controlling them from your end?
I'll be controlling them for you. Just let me know when to advance.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. For the record, I'm Anna Kashuba, Senior Planner for the City of South Lake Tahoe, and I'm here with a special use permit for your consideration. As mentioned, the property is 2307 James Avenue. Next slide, please. So here is a look at the project area. The parcel is outlined in red. It's within the neighborhood professional district of the Tahoe Valley Area Plan. The site's just under an acre and is developed with an existing membership organization use. The site consists of office spaces, conference room, parking lot, and restrooms. It's owned and operated by the applicant, which is the South Tahoe Association of Realtors. They use it for their regular business and also host real estate related events here. The conference space is roughly 40% of the floor area of the structure, and that is the space the applicant is proposing to rent under the proposed local public assembly facility use on site. The events that are currently hosted are limited to those hosted by the South Tahoe Association of Realtors and are generally related to real estate and financial literacy. Next slide, please. As far as the project description, it's really just incorporating a new use to the site. There are no physical changes. The site, there's an addition to the structure in 2015. At that point, BMPs were upgraded and the site was brought into compliance with ADA requirements. So there are no physical changes at this time. Per our building code, the proposed use falls under the same category as the existing use, so there are no changes required there either. Issuing the special use permit would not substantially change the nature of the site. It would just allow that a wider variety of events be held there. The applicant has identified other realtor events, local business organizations, nonprofits, and community groups as kind of their target clients. The applicant has also proposed some operating details. Those are included in the attached management plan, and I've highlighted a few of those details here. The capacity of events would be limited to 57 people during working hours. And I'm sorry, I'm on the previous slide still.
Great.
Thank you. And with a maximum of 75 individuals on evenings and weekends when the site is not being used by the Realtors Association. All parking can be accommodated on the site. This is also part of why the capacity has been adjusted. For reference, I believe the maximum capacity is around 90 individuals. And lastly, they propose to have all events conclude by 10 o'clock in the evening. Next slide, please. So here are the findings that are required for the issuance of a special use permit. The staff report or the findings attachment contains a little bit more detail, but just to quickly touch on them. The first is that the project is appropriate for the parcel and the surrounding uses. Staff believes this is the case. It's consistent with the regional plan and area plan goals. Additionally, the site requires no physical changes. There won't be any disturbance to the site, and it is already ADA compliant. The second finding was that the project will not be injurious to the health, safety of the persons or property in the region. As mentioned, this use of the site would not substantially change. It's intended to be used as kind of a classroom setting. This just expands the topics that can kind of be hosted at the site. And also, as discussed in the last slide, the management plan includes operating measures such as hours of operation and capacity limits to avoid negative impacts. And the last finding here is that the project won't change the character of the neighborhood, consistent with the other findings. The management plan proposes, built-in mitigation to make sure it's consistent. The use is allowed within this district when the special finding use can be, or the special use findings can be made. And staff believes that the use is compatible with the surrounding uses and won't cause any disturbance. Next slide, please. I believe this is the last one. Perfect. So I'm happy to answer any questions. We also have the applicant and a representative on the call if there are any questions for them directly. And I was not made aware of any public comments for this item.
All right. Thank you, Anna. I don't have any questions at the moment, but I'm happy to hear from the applicant.
Yes, I'm not sure where to look. Here. Executive Vice President for the South Tahoe Association of Realtors. And as thank you, Anna, for a very succinct, very good presentation on the project. That we're basically asking for a permit to be able to commercially rent out the space for groups to be able to be used as the realtors are using it for classes and meetings, essentially. And we hope that it will be an enhancement to the community, as there are not a lot of spaces that allow for this in the community. And it's something that's in our mission statement to also contribute to the community's well-being. So as stated already, for community service organizations like Seroptimus and Rotary, we'd love to host them. We'd love to have St. Joseph's Community Land Trust come and host things. That's I think our missions are similar in terms of housing and real estate and educating the community and the public. So we began this project 2015. I think we had a final on our building edition in 2017. So we've been 9 years in this process back and forth with the city of South Lake Tahoe in terms of how to make this work. And so we feel we're kind of in the final stretch, and we hope that you will consider allowing us this use.
All right, thank you. Okay, and I just want to check in with Jen Self and that we didn't receive any comments, public comments through our TRPA comment portal.
Public comments. Jen Self had to leave.
Oh, okay. But this is Jessica. I can't see you guys very well.
I know it's awkward right now.
Yeah.
So there weren't any public comments submitted.
And there's no members of the public currently in the room. I don't know about on Zoom, but there's no members in the room.
All right, well, let's go ahead and open it up to public comment for those who are participating remotely.
Okay, I'll just make the announcement. It looks like everybody dropped off, but I'll make the announcement regardless. Any member of the public online wishing to comment on this item, please raise your hand now by clicking on the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by dialing *9 if you're joined by phone. There are no hands raised to comment on this item.
All right, then I will go ahead and close the public comment period for this item. And it was a very thorough staff report. I don't have any questions. The findings were all drafted. So I'm going to go ahead and take action. I'll approve the findings contained in the staff summary, including a finding of no significant environmental effect. And I'll approve the project based on the staff summary, the record evidence, and subject to the conditions contained in the draft permit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Marcia.
We're adjourned.